had to land in grief, and I had to have the ability to feel it so that I could heal it. When I first played that bowl, it sounded like nails on a chalkboard. And of course, my first, was like, Jerilyn, what are you doing wrong? Why is the bowl sounding like that? And then it was like later I recognized the crystal sound is reflecting me.
Oh my goodness.
It's me. That screeching nails on a chalkboard is me. That's my grief. And the sound is in training with it and helping me to feel it and release it. I can explain that to you now. In the process, I didn't understand that. It was just like I needed something to help relieve the immensity of the pain.
Yeah. Welcome to Deeply Well, a soft place to land on your journey. A podcast for those that are curious, creative, and ready to expand in higher consciousness and self-care. I'm Devi Brown. This is where we heal. This is where we become. Today's episode is going to be such an awakening for your body, mind, and soul. This episode, we are going to be diving into a topic we have not yet had the pleasure to explore on this show with the absolute foremost expert in this space, who is just one of the most divine beings I've had the chance to encounter. Today's episode's special guest is Jeralyn Glass, a former Broadway and opera singer who has gone from selling out concert halls around the globe to becoming a leading voice in the world of holistic healing and music as medicine. She's performed for European presidents and star athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Kobe Bryant. Jerilyn is founder of Crystal Cadence, a dedicated sound healing studio housing the Los Angeles Crystal Singing Bowl Temple of Alchemy, one of the largest selections of crystal alchemy singing bowls in the world. When tragedy struck and Jerilyn lost her only child, the beautiful chimes of crystal healing bowls comforted her soul. Now she's on a mission to share their power with the rest of the world. In her forthcoming book, Sacred Vibrations, The Transformative Power of Crystalline Sound and Music, published by Hay House, releasing July 23rd, that's this July 23rd. Jerilyn shows that music isn't just an art form, it is the universal language soothing our souls, healing our wounds, and lifting our spirits. More than mere melodies, music is a potent medicine transcending barriers, offering solace, inspiration, and profound healing, connecting us as one. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Devi.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. You understand this world so much. You understand so much sound and wellness and healing.
Thank you. I know you and I go deep with our conversations about all of these things in real life. I had the opportunity to first meet you through two of our very close mutual friends, which is Layla Delia and Lauren London. And we kind of have like a girl group going. And I'll never forget, they took me down to your temple and I met you, like our hearts connected. I laid on your floor, which is like it was like laying on the back of an alpaca. Like it was just insane. Laid down and I'm like sinking into this like pristine white carpet. And you so generously played for us some of the most, like I still remember it vibrating in my body, like some of the most exquisite sounds. And it's like, I think we all looked up and it was like 1 a.m. We were like, beam me up. And then after that, you created 2 incredible sets of Alchemy Bowls for me that I use in my life and my work. And it's been so special I think that we can see, first of all, music is medicine. It's really starting to come on the planet, and people are really working with this medicine and understanding and getting trained in it. There's so many incredible people that were meant to use this as their medicine. So people are coming to this at such a fast pace. But also, I am such a lover, an admirer, an eager student of masters. And the way that your life has supported your expertise of this medicine, it's really kind of mind-blowing. So I would love to first center this just in kind of asking, even before you found this medicine, your actual voice is the medicine. How did you find music? How did you find opera?
Oh my goodness. So I knew as a little girl, I remember distinctly a moment connecting to God. I was outside twirling on our front porch, and I was singing and moving, and I connected to something that felt bigger than myself, that was a vibration. And I named it faith, I named it God, and I heard music will be your life's path. So I knew as a little child, and so we'd put on little shows and sing and dance for my parents, but I never knew where it was really going to go. And then, so I was invited to sing a solo in the 6th grade choir, and after the concert, I was 11 years old. People said to my parents, "What are you going to do? She's talented." And at that time, there was no America's Got Talent or The Voice or anything like that, right?
On American Idol.
And so my mom took me to a neighbor who was a very famous singer, and she had dubbed for Ava Gardner in the MGM movie of Showboat and dubbed Lucille Ball. And she's now going to be 102 years old. And if you would hear her sing, her voice is incredible. It's ageless. And so she taught me a very natural technique and helped me to understand that each of us have our own vibrational frequency. So my responsibility, whether I sing or just speak in this world, this is my vessel. This is my human instrument. And just like our fingerprints, no one has my timbre. We each are a different kind of instrument. And so she taught me to identify that, to keep developing that, and then to learn how to express it freely and easily and effortlessly in life, and then of course it carried over into song, but yeah.
And then so after you got your training and were kind of like fine-tuning this instrument, how did you join the opera? And tell me about that kind of part of your life.
The first thing, I dreamed to be on Broadway. So that was, and my parents had grown up in Brooklyn, and they had moved out west to California. And I said to my mom and dad, I want to be on Broadway. And my dad was like, "Why would you want to go back to New York? That's where we came from." I was like, "Dad, there's only one Broadway." And so I packed my suitcase and I moved myself to New York at 19. Wow. And and started auditioning. And very soon I had my first contracts, and then a Broadway contract. And then the opera came later. When one of the people I was coaching with, he said to me, "Your voice, it's got a lot of strength and a lot of range to it. Have you ever considered looking at classical music?" And I went to the Met, and I saw La Boheme. I saw a beautiful production of La Boheme, and I fell in love with it. And then boom, I started to switch my focus of my studies. I went to Juilliard, I went to Italy, and then it happened really fast.
Wow. And so from using your instrument, your internal instrument, your voice, how did you discover Alchemy Bowls, and how did you start working with them?
So at that time, it was almost 18 years ago. I was living in Germany. I was enjoying a wonderful career. I had built a kids foundation there, and the whole point of that was that music is the universal language, and that music is what connects us heart to heart, no matter what language we speak, what culture we're from, what God we pray to. It doesn't matter. Music is what connects us. And so I was traveling with my mom in the United States. I was home, and I heard somebody was giving a lecture about the crystal singing bowls, and I said, "Let's go." I had some Himalayan singing bowls, and I loved those. And I would do, like, before performances, I would put one on my belly, and I would tone with it. So it was kind of like my meditation tool.
Like the brass bowls?
Yeah, the brass bowls. And when I heard these bowls, it was like I heard them first as an instrument, but it was a sound that I had never heard before, something that was absolutely exquisite, absolutely pristine. And I was like, Mom, I have to get some of these. And that started it. And I brought them home to Germany and I started playing them with my students and my young son. He was 7 at the time. And what I saw with my students, my voice students, is I would ask them to choose a bowl. And when they had a blockage or something in their voice where we were working technically, they would take the bowl and it would open their voice up.
Oh, wow.
So there was one instance of a young, she was 16, and she took a D bowl. Okay, she took the note of the D, which if we talk about in the chakra system, that's the sacral chakra. That's your womb, your creativity. That was the note she chose. The alchemy was ocean indium, which is mineral, and it's about strengthening your skeletal system, about flow, like the flow of water. And suddenly her voice opened, and then she remembered in a moment a childhood trauma, a sexual trauma. Boom, like that. And, we worked together. So Devi, at that point, I was a singer and I was a teacher and I loved what I was doing, but I wasn't aware really of this whole idea of sound healing.
Wow.
And then there it was. And even further from the Kids Foundation, many of the children entered a national contest in Germany for music. And my son was 13 at the time and he entered in voice in a musical theater. He made it to the semifinals, and then a week before his semifinal audition, he says, Mom, my voice, something's happening. And he started his voice change.
Oh my gosh.
And so we used the singing bowls to keep his voice open. And it was phenomenal. I had never coached a boy through their voice change.
Wow.
And he picked a little G note bowl, which now I know is the note of the throat chakra, but that's what he picked. And it was citrine. So it was all about personal power, confidence, courage. And he stood up and he said, my name is Dylan, and since 1 week, I'm no longer a soprano. And he sailed into his program, and it was like, wow. So those were the 2 early things that happened, around the bowls, but I was still using them more as an instrument and more just, I would bring my son to bed as a little, like a lullaby. And it wasn't till later that I discovered really the world that I'm in now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Before I walk that path, I want to center some of the things that are in this book. So I'm going to share the book summary of Sacred Vibrations, the Transformative Power of Crystalline Sound and Music. So this book is about taking a journey into the extraordinary world of healing sound and embarking upon a powerful exploration of the science and magic of crystal singing bowls. Fascinating discoveries in science and medicine are revealing the many ways sound affects us at both a biological and an emotional level. At a time when people are seeking solace and healing as never before, distinguished musician and crystal singing bowl master teacher Jeralyn Glass has penned an intriguing narrative that impactfully shows how you can embrace the healing power of music. Sacred Vibration shares the remarkable story of Glass's rise to acclaim as a Broadway and opera singer who graced some of the world's most celebrated stages. We walk with her as she shares her exploration of the healing power of music that traces its roots to primitive humanity. We learn from the wisdom and scientific research of her friends and colleagues who are bringing the study of sound and music to an epic crescendo. And we breathe reverentially with her as she shares the emotional story of her son's birth, his death, and the astonishingly expansive relationship she has established with him and the crystal singing bowls in the years since he passed. Intentional sound can transmute uncertainty, chaos, and pain into harmony, coherence, and true healing. The book grounds the ethereal nature of singing bowls through science, theory, and practical application. And it includes singing bowl meditations that are accessible through QR codes that can guide you on your journey of integration and wholeness, showing yet again how music is medicine for our time. Okay, so I want to dive into the depths of sound healing. You shared at the very beginning of the journey, those kind of noticing those observations of like, oh, your sacral cleared. Something came up to be released when you heard that sound. At what point in your work with the bowls and with your own voice did the shift in like really seeing it and using it as medicine happen? And what were you seeing?
I think when my son passed away and I was offered to go by 3 different doctors to go on antidepressants, I just knew that was not my path. And I knew that I had to find something to hold me in that space of grief, because you just want to run. Like, you don't want to feel that. It's insane. It's so intense, right? And especially as a parent, it's just such a shock, right? And you don't expect, you expect at some point your parent goes, and that's the natural order of things. Perhaps a partner goes and you feel like you lose your present. But when a child goes, you feel like you lose a future. And just to be able to sit in that space, music became my medicine. And, it was not planned, Devi, but I hadn't, I'd played the bowls up through those years, as fun and as instruments, but I had never really done serious work. What I began to realize, I worked with a selenite bowl. And when I think about it now, the selenite bowl was the note of a G sharp. And the G sharp we talk about as being your zeal point chakra. So sometimes people call it the mail slot to God, but it's like a connection to the cosmos, a connection to something so much bigger than we are. That's the bowl I chose for the first one to play. And selenite is about grounded white light and connection of heaven and earth. And I just felt, okay, that alchemy, I went from the alchemy, that's going to connect me to my son. And I started playing it. And all I can say to you is that there was a misty white substance in the room. I saw like a presence in the room, and he was guiding me what to do. And then I started keening and groaning and wailing and making sounds. I had been in talk therapy sometimes 6 hours a week because I was trying to talk it through. And there's many things in our lives we can't talk them through. There's no words. And yet, how do we create the safe container that we can feel them, breathe them, and then sound will entrain with that energy, and it will help it to release. So that's where I started. And the first session I did with myself was about 50 minutes. And I remember I got up to go wash my face, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and there was light in my eyes. And I hadn't seen the light, and this was a couple months after his passing. I hadn't seen that light. There was joy. And it was like, okay, son, I get it. Something's happening. And just to back up, on the night that he died, I walked down to the beach to be just in nature and be by the ocean with a dear friend who had known Dylan from Germany since he was a little boy. And we saw a shooting star that was like this huge upside down smile that seemed to cross the ocean and land in the mountains behind LA. And I heard his voice, Mom, it's like we always talked about. I'm home. I'm with God. Because we had prayed with the bowls. We had done our little meditation. So it's out of my right ear, and I'm just going, wait a minute. Because, you can imagine as a parent, you're just frozen in shock. It's like, wait, death is death. It's final, right? And I hear this, and I hear his voice, and he was big. He was 6'3" and 230 pounds. He was an athlete, and I hear his voice coming in my right ear, and it's just like, wait a minute. And that began this wondrous communication. And I feel so blessed, Devi. I feel so blessed to have it. And I understand that there was a bigger purpose. There is a bigger purpose to his passing so young. There's something that we're doing together. It's taken some years, it was 9 years ago, to really recognize, okay, there was a sacrifice, and there was something that our souls agreed upon. And, I'll tease him and I'll go, I don't remember signing any soul contract with you. And I don't remember agreeing to that, son. And when I see you, we're going to have a talk about it. And he just laughs. He laughs. It's like, Mom, I'm here. I'm not gone. And as a parent, you just want to squeeze your child and all that stuff. And it's like, I had to land in grief, and I had to have the ability to feel it so that I could heal it. And I understand that now. But when I first played that bowl, it sounded like nails on a chalkboard. And of course, my first, was like, Jerilyn, what are you doing wrong? Why is the bowl sounding like that? And then it was like later I recognized the crystal sound is reflecting me.
Oh my goodness.
It's me. That screeching nails on chalkboard is me. That's my grief. And the sound is in training with it and helping me to feel it and release it. I can explain that to you now. In the process, I didn't understand that. It was just like I needed something to help relieve the immensity of the pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
I love you so much.
Oh, me too. Boof.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something we call on or we wish for, but as we've shared, like, we get confronted with different things in our lives, and when we can take the bigger view, and we can take this bird's eye view, and we understand, okay, God, there's a bigger purpose you called me for. Again, I don't really know that I agree to that, but I don't have a choice. So I got to land in it, and I need to use all my tools, and my tools are music. Yeah.
Something that you explore in the book, and that a lot in what you just shared, is the way that you and that beautiful boy have continued to grow and enjoy a relationship since he transcended. How has his guidance come forward in your life, and especially in, you know, what you shared is so profoundly hard to live, right? Hard to hear, hard to live, but so powerful. My God. And, you know, something that I always see in you, and I know every single person that meets you says that it's like you just have the most stunning smile. Like it like knocks, it'll just kind of like take your breath away. Like you just have so much light in your face, in your eyes, in your smile, and the way you move through the world. Like you're just like this ball of delight and beauty. And, you know, I just want to honor for you the fact that I know how much that requires. And the courage and the strength and just the power to be able to be both, to be able to hold something this hard, and then also still choose to be light in life, healing millions of people around the world, bringing joy, bringing science, like literally bringing things that, you know, you have to pour yourself into to understand, to grow, to teach, and then giving it. And, you know, I've had the chance, you've invited me to join one of your teacher trainings and come speak to your students. And, you know, being in that container, I got to know you as a teacher and not just as a friend, and just see the way you bring everyone to life in their gifts. I was there for the last day celebration of one of your groups in this gorgeous church by the sea, and just beholding everyone who found this as their path and then activating their confidence in what they're here to share through this medium. It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I loved it when I created the Kids Foundation in Germany, and we had children from all over the world with different languages, and just how music brought them together. Like, for example, we taught them, they did a big medley of Gershwin's I Got Rhythm, right? And Clap Your Hands, and different songs by Gershwin. And just to see what that did, because it creates unity. And in terms of people working with the bowls, it's like, you are a very unique practitioner. My job as a teacher is to guide that, to coax that out of you and go, have the courage, as my teacher used to say to me, take the question mark off your back. And I'd be like, how do you see I have a question mark? And it's like, you know, it's so obvious when someone is just like observing themselves. So my job is, how do I help you land in the essence of who you are, ground it, and expand it and express it, and then up-level it and embody it so that it keeps growing and growing and growing, and you live into your potential. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk about the process of crafting maybe one of my sets? I got some power players.
Yeah, and so much like what you asked me first about Dylan and his communication. There have been moments
Yeah.
where I sank so into grief that I couldn't find him. And, his communications were regular and they're shared throughout the book, all kinds of just incredible things that have happened from signs and communications and guidance. And, every year for the last couple of years at New Year's Eve, he'd say to me, Mom, fasten your seatbelt. Mom, strap in. Every year there was a different message, and it was like, okay, we're on this path together. But when I sunk in grief, I couldn't vibrate where he is. So the bowls became a tool for me of how to keep I don't know how else to say it, how to keep my vibration, my thoughts, the light in me, how to keep that animated, how to keep that alive. And so that I could reach him easily. Because there was one moment where I just thought, I'm not going to make it. And I thought about getting a knife in the kitchen and just ending it. And I just lost it. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, and she knew in a half a second where I was. And she's little, she's 5'3" and 130 pounds. She said, if you take your life, I'll kill you first. And it was just like, whoa.
That is such a mama thing to say. Like, what the heck?
I mean, I don't know. When I ask her today, she doesn't know where that came from. But she felt the desperation. And she felt, when you're wallowing in it, it's just hard to find the light when you're in the darkness. And I never dropped to that moment ever again. She heard me. She got me. And I recognized what I just shared. Like, if I didn't keep working on myself to elevate and ground, breathe and feel the sadness, I couldn't keep myself in a deep relationship with him. And that has been more important to me than anything. So that's part of the process. And then with your...
God, that's powerful.
But I didn't realize it at first. It was just because you land in the humanness of it. And then in building your sets, so what we did was we built a pentatonic scale. So it's important for me to use those sounds of the pentatonic scale. Da, 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 is one form of a pentatonic scale. And there's something so magical to that. So when I was living in Germany, in 2008, the scientists made a discovery in the north part of Germany of bird bone flutes. And these little bird bone flutes, they estimated were between 40 and 60,000 years old. So way before the time of Pythagoras, where also a lot of this basis for sound healing has come, but way before that. And the pentatonic scale is something that everyone knows. And so I built that set for you, one of them, on those notes, because it's like an ancient pattern of sound. And somehow every culture, I love this video of Bobby McFerrin on YouTube from I think it's 2009 Science Festival, and Dr. Daniel Levitin is in it, one of the leading neuroscientists. And Bobby demonstrates the pentatonic scale on a mock piano and then shares that wherever he goes in the world and he sings with the audience, everyone can follow that. So there's something very ancient that we know at the very cellular level with that scale. And what I did in both of your sets was I worked with low notes that resonate below your body, notes that resonate in the body. So for example, with that young lady that picked the D note that was in her sacral chakra. But for me, it's important as a musician that you can work with sounds that deeply ground you and connect you to the earth, and sounds that are above the crown chakra where you open to your life purpose and your soul purpose. So for example, in my own process, recognizing, okay, I got to understand that this Dylan leaving the planet early was really a soul purpose, a soul contract that we had. Sound, by using these higher notes, helped me to understand and feel that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when we use a full kind of keyboard, so when we use a low note, we use a note that centers, whether it's in your belly, in your heart, in your throat, your third eye, and we use higher notes above. So in this case, in your set, we have octaves, meaning one of those notes is outside the body, one is in the body, or one of those notes is in the body and one is above the crown. This is what I've discovered builds. It's like we're like, and there's so much in physics that talks about this, that we're vibrating strings. And when we build that connection from, let's say, a musical octave or musical octaves, we're working on this connection of heaven and earth. And for me, the whole, just feeling, breathing, embodying my destiny with my son, is about that. And it's how can we bring that light? Because we all are that. You know that so well, you are that, but how can we open to that light, to that place where we name God, or we name the cosmos or the universe, whatever you want to name, it doesn't matter. But that radiance that each of us has, and then combine that with our vibrational signature, the unique tones of our being. And then we as human beings, we know, okay, we got to keep that in tune. We got to keep the human instrument in tune. So how do I do that? And then we ground the bottom string to the earth so that we are not wobbling. And that when stuff happens in our lives, or all the stuff we see happening in our world, that we just go, no, it's not correct. It's not how humans beings should behave with one another. That we can be grounded enough so we stay stable, and that we stay a stable light force for others in the world.
Yeah.
And music does that. So in your sets, in both of the sets, I put both of those things.
They are spicy, these sets.
So that you have that deeply grounding connection to the earth, and you have that connection to the heavenly realms. Right? And the embodiment piece.
So, in part, and you're already illustrating this, but when I think about like the science, right? Like what you're speaking to, it's really speaking to the lived experience that I have with my bowls, because like I play them for myself every morning and every night. It's how my son and I start our day. It's how we end our day. You just taught him how to play them, which I was terrified, but he got that like mallet and he smacked it so hard.
Like, no.
And I screamed. I said, ah! And then he got so scared. And then you came in so perfectly. You're like, no, just a tap like this. And so he started, but he's not allowed in that room. But I feel personally the regulating ability of working with those frequencies. Like it helps clear me to start the day. It clears me. I feel that it allows me to really move into like nourishing, restful sleep. It helps me kind of dump thoughts. It really supports everything about my spiritual practice and the way that I know I need to attune. But then also I find that it is my natural inclination, like whether I or my son have a cold, I'll sit him on the little pew and then I'll play. And I do the same thing for myself. And it feels incredibly supportive to my vitality and my physical health. So, science-wise, I'm curious, how does music regulate our body chemistry? And how is it that I can have that experience where I'm like, oh, am I moving through this cold with a little more ease, a little more acceleration?
Gosh, there's so much to say about that, but to try to, first of all, the sound, especially of the crystal bowls, but music and other instruments too, but the sound of those bowls, like when I described when I first heard them, that they were so pristine and so exquisite and so like, there was so much in it, right? Mm-hmm. It brings your mind to a focus. It brings your mind to stillness. So in that moment, especially for people that can't meditate in a traditional way, suddenly they're able to still the mind and drop in their body in that moment. What happens is we talk about the trap door to the subconscious opens and you land in a place where you're deeply relaxed. So fight or flight reduces. There's no production of cortisol. More leukocytes get produced. Dopamine levels rise. So there's different things in the body chemistry that happens as a result of and I've had
sweet release.
It's so sweet. And it's so sweet and it's so gentle and it's so easy and natural. And it feels like that for me is how I want my medicine,
Yeah. Ooh.
And there's no side effects on that. And I've seen it with so many different people, from veterans to cancer patients to hospice patients and their families to children. people that have just a pain in their low back, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, people that need to de-stress. I'm thinking of one young man that I played for that was an executive at IBM, and he was on like a relaxation cure for burnout. And he heard the bowls, and he said to me, "What kind of voodoo did you do?" And he was like, he was trying to put in words. He was saying, if I listen to music, I'm out. I go out and I go to sleep. He said, I was awake, but I had no thought in my mind. He goes, I've never experienced anything like that before. And then what happens is you get creative ideas and inspirations. I think in relation like to your cold, I think our own innate healing powers and our immunity gets boosted. We suddenly have more power inherent inside us when the mind is stilled and we're working inside the body at the cellular level.
Oof. Oof. For those listening to the show right now who may or may not have some crystal bowls or have, Tibetan bowls, but how can those listening incorporate healing music into their daily lives now?
So one thing that my son said to me near the beginning was, Mom, we have to make this music available for everybody. So I created a YouTube channel and I started doing something called Tune Up Tuesdays. It was just a free meditation. And so there's a huge library on the Crystal Cadence YouTube channel, all kinds of things, including 2-hour loops. And so the 2-hour loops are done with a pentatonic scale, one of them, and the other one is a regular C major scale, which is like the tones of the chakra system. And I just felt like Dylan really has a big purpose. And it's like, I feel like where he is, he has a much bigger view than I could ever see in this human body. And it's like, Mom, it's just got to be available for people. So, and then, music that we've created. So we've created a couple of different albums with vocals and then without vocals. And those are all on the streaming platforms and on our website, Crystal Cadence. And then, which I write about in the book, he led different people to me, I'll say it that way, because I have had the joy and the privilege to mentor Janae Aiko and to be a part of her Chilumbo album, and then a part of, as she started to use the sound bowls in her meditations. And there's one thing that I share in the book about Dylan's guidance with that. And the first thing she did was the triggered protection mantra to counteract the triggered song, which I think, everybody knows, but it's like, calm down, protect your energy, calm down. And it's just her and 3 bowls, so the bowls have moved into so many different arenas. I've had the privilege of singing a concert with SZA and using the bowls. So she loves the bowls. And it's just, again, I don't know, they're such incredible tools that amplify you. So in what we were saying before, the way that I teach people is that they use their own unique personal alchemy. So everyone's going to have a little different bit to it of how they express it. But on the YouTube channel, you can find very many free meditations. So you get an idea, what is that? How is that work? How do I feel with that? Do I like, because then it gets more and more complex. Like, do I like the musical tuning of 432 hertz? Do I like the sound of 440 hertz, which is music today? Do I like the sound of 528 hertz? And so there's all different kinds of variations of tunings of the bowls.
Wow.
Combinations. I mean, think about how rich music is and the fact that you can make music with them also. And you can also play them in very slow, really meditative with talking. So sometimes on the YouTube channel, there's guided meditations, and sometimes there's just sound for people to find their own way. Yeah.
Oh, I want to share with everyone my favorite way to work with your YouTube videos. So one, I would recommend that maybe wake up with it as you're brushing your teeth, as you're having a slow start to your morning, getting dressed, and maybe hold silence for yourself as you do that. Don't scroll. Don't connect to technology right away. Same could happen at the end of the day as you're getting ready for bed to really calm your nervous system, relax, dim the lights, maybe have a scented candle if that's your vibe, or incense. and slowly get dressed in your pajamas and, have that playing as you get to your bed and lay down and take a few deep breaths with it. Let it resonate with your body. Another way that I would recommend using this is, for me, and usually this is once a week, but definitely once a month if I'm traveling a lot. Either Saturday or Sunday, I'll take the first half of the day to just be with my home and clean and, get the energy nice and pristine. And so I like to put on one of the longer mixes, let it loop, let it repeat, put on the speakers, and then I open up every window in my house and I just let it play. I light sage, I light incense, I water my plants. I use this as time to feel really grateful for my son and I in our life, and the fact that we can take time to tend to ourselves and to our home. But it's really beautiful, and it fills my home with a really powerful light-infused vibration, and it welcomes in new, fresh air. So that could be one of the ways, if you clean up the house or clean up the house with your family on a weekend day, or just like to move a little more slowly, open those windows up, let some light in, sage it, clear the energy of the week out, and then let this frequency really nourish you and your sanctuary from the inside out.
And if you set a personal intention, so one of my mentors is Jonathan Goldman, who's been a pioneer in the field of sound healing. And he has a phrase, a formula that says intent, frequency plus intent equals healing or transformation. So when you add an intention, so it's like, okay, I'm going to let go of this particular thing that's been worrying me, or this feeling of whatever it may be, and you set that intention as you do what you're just describing, it's really powerful. There's another album that I did together with John V. Harrison that is beautiful, called Balm. And so to be able to do the bowls with kirtan is also it's a whole nother thing. It's really a beautiful energy. That's a beautiful album to listen to. Another Australian singer that I work with, Kevin James, he uses the bowls throughout. After a chanting session, circles, he'll use the bowls in the Shavasana, and he plays flute with them. I've done a recording with Victor Wooten, great bass player, that also we have bass and bowls, and it's coming out on an app. So we have an app coming out called Source, and that whole idea was what we've been talking about. How do we have little ways in our lives to bring the bowls, to bring sound healing, to bring music as medicine into our lives? And on the app Source, there's all kinds of things, so you can learn about the science behind the sound. Because I feel like as a professor, I feel like that's also very important, that people can understand in small or big ways what is this science behind it. That it's not just a woo-woo. This music medicine has been around since the beginning of time. From the ancient Aborigines to every culture that we can think about has used music as a medicine, right? And so you come together, there's like an hour sound bath on the app. There's all different kinds of things that you can put together. And I think it's important for us as human beings now to ask, where do we collaborate? What is it which is what I love with you, like what is what you're doing? How does that have to do with what I'm doing? And where do we come together? And how is that helpful for all of us? This word of collaboration and this idea of combining science with music, with yoga, with meditation, with bioenergetics, with physics. What does that have to do with all of us? A lot. It helps to really bring a cohesive feeling of wholeness, a feeling of also self, that I don't need to turn to a pill, that I don't need to turn to something else, that I actually have such an innate power to heal within me. And I think for many of us, we're not necessarily taught that or shown that.
Yeah, truly. Truly, we are not.
Yeah.
Jerilyn, thank you so much for joining me. Your book will be out July 23rd. So this is a healed girl summer. Everybody grab this for the summer. Get you these QR codes and start your meditation, start your journey, start your connection. Sacred Vibrations, the transformative power of crystalline sound and music, published by Hay House and written by Jeralyn Glass. Thank you for your life's work. Wow. how can everyone connect with you? What is your website and your Instagram?
Crystal Cadence is the website, Crystal Cadence. And then the social media is Crystal Cadence LA. And then the YouTube is Crystal Cadence by Jeralyn Glass. We offer like a members portal. So if people want to come in and don't want to do like a training, but want to be in this world, that's offered every month. You've been one of our guest speakers. It's such a joy.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
That was really
Remember
good.
that conversation? Yeah. That was good.
That was really good. Again, it's like I love to bring together science and spirituality.
Yeah.
And medicine now. You know, this whole field of music medicine. More and more connections with doctors also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the app Source that it is out on all the platforms.
So as we close out this episode, we're actually going to end it with what I recommend is everyone's soul work for this week. For those that don't know, even though it's in our credits, the intro for this show and the outro and all the chiming that you hear in between as we go to commercial break was done by this legendary being, Jeralyn Glass. And we created that at the start of this season. So I'm so excited that everyone gets to know those sounds and vibrations they've been connecting to. And you so generously have offered to play the bowls on this episode of the show. So this is the soul work. Listen to this and keep listening to this for the whole week. If you can, listen to this portion of the show that is about to begin every day this week and just see how you feel. Thank you. Namaste.